Marijuana kills brain cells.
I thought the same thing. You know, I didn't start smoking pot until about 5 years ago. I thought pot made you stupid. You know, I bought into it just as much as anybody did. I realized when I was like 30 years old that I was tricked. I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
1974, the Heath-Tulin study. Ronald Reagan announces, the most reliable scientific sources say permanent brain damage is one of the inevitable results of the use of marijuana. Monkeys pumped full of marijuana, apparently 30 joints a day, had begun to atrophy and die after 90 days. Brain damage was determined after counting the dead brain cells of both monkeys who had been subjected to the marijuana and ones who had not. This study became the foundation of the government, and other special interest groups claim that marijuana kills brain cells. Here's what they didn't tell you. After 6 years of requests, how the study was conducted was finally revealed. Instead of administering 30 joints a day for 1 year, Dr. Heath used a method of pumping 63 Colombian-strength joints through a gas mask within 5 minutes over 3 months.
They suffocated the monkeys. What they did is they put these gas masks basically on their face and they pumped pot into it, but without additional oxygen. So after X amount of time, the brain shut down. Well, if you suffocate, the first thing that's going to happen is your brain cells are going to die with lack of oxygen. So what they did is they suffocated the monkey, showed all these dead brain cells, and then went on to associate it by saying that cannabis use causes your brain cells to die. And how many people, not knowing the origin of the study, have gone on to quote it and re-quote it. And now people believe it.
Studies since have shown no signs of any brain cell damage. In 2005, new research suggested that marijuana could possibly stimulate brain cell growth.
But here's the bottom line. You need to go out and you need to look with your own eyes what's going on. The businesses closing around you, the empty storefronts, the empty homes, the demolished homes, the number of homeless out there. It's a very scary situation. The hallmark of a fascist economy is that profits are kept private. If you make a lot of money, if you're willing to share a little bit of it with politicians, you get to keep it. Losses are socialized. That's what all these bailouts are all about, all the TARP, all these other little acronyms they're using. They're basically taking all the bad deals that Wall Street and the banks and the investment companies and the real estate companies, all those bad deals they made, they're dumping them on you, the American taxpayer, and they're driving you into poverty doing it. They're keeping the goodies for themselves. Bonuses, huge amounts of money. They're having a really, really good time, and they're making you pay for it. They're forcing you to buy the bad assets from the banks and mortgage companies collectively. It's all about taking money from the poor and giving it to the rich. That's what they're doing right now. And it's going to start coming apart because the only way they can keep it going is they're printing up the money. Somewhere down the road, you, your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren are going to suffer a lifetime of indebted servitude to pay it all back. That's the plan. That's what allows them to sort of do bookkeeping tricks to say they're not really inflating the money supply because it's a loan on behalf of the people. And you're seeing it at the supermarket and at the gas pump because here's the bottom line. We gave our manufacturing away. We gave our agriculture away. We used to be the breadbasket to the world. We grew so much food we could waste half of it and still have tons and tons to sell to other countries. We don't do that anymore. Now they're trying to carbon tax you for global warming. It's one scam after the other, after the other, after the other. And the question I have is, why are you not furious? Why are you not angry? How many more lies must you be told to understand the reality of life in the United States of America? How many of your sons and daughters and brothers and sisters and husbands of wives have to come back in those cheap aluminum boxes covered with a cheap American flag made in China before you realize the true nature of life in the United States of America? How many more photographs of American soldiers guarding and protecting opium poppy fields in Afghanistan do you have to see before you understand the true nature of life in the United States of America? There has to be a breaking point somewhere. Frankly, I thought we would have hit it before now. Where's the breaking point? Are they putting tranquilizers in the water? I don't know. There's a lot of medical stuff in the water. That's been confirmed. Our society is so drugged out with pharmaceuticals that we're being sold. After decades of debate on fluoridation of water, finally, firmly established scientifically that fluoride does not inhibit tooth decay in any way at all. It never did. So why is it in the water? Well, it calms people down. It suppresses anger and rage. Is that why it's in the water? I don't know. If you look around at the state our country is in, and you have to wonder, where is that righteous anger that freed this nation from British rule? Where did it go? Has it been bred out of us? Have we been subject to some vast breeding experiment to basically turn us from being real human beings into some sort of a semi-human primate, usable for forced labor and military conquest, and really not capable of much else? Have we been devolved instead of evolved? Are we being devolved to this sort of subhuman creature that can't feel anger or rage at our enslavement, that gladly offers our throat or our wrist up to the butcher's knife on demand? It's rather alarming.
The whole conspiracy is founded on keeping humanity in a very, very low level of perception about self, perception about the world. This is why we have the dumbing down of education. This is why we have the controlled so-called information that comes through the media. The idea is to keep people in ignorance of anything that would be a problem to the control system. So we're kept in ignorance about the nature of reality itself, the nature of life itself, who we are, where we are, what we're doing here. We're kept in ignorance of the true forces that are manipulating behind the people we see in the public arena. Now, all these connections have to be kept from people so that we behave and perceive the world and everything in the way that suits the control system. So any awakening, any opening of the mind to see things that people didn't see before is a real big problem for the conspiracy, for the manipulators. And what we're seeing now, as more and more people are awakening, is a almost panic-stricken attempt to put the lid on this, to dumb people down. And this is one reason why we're seeing the ever greater drugging of American children, not just American children, but in the wider world too. While we're seeing more and more of these chemical cocktails in food that destabilize the body's chemical balance. And all of these things fundamentally affect the way people see the world and their ability to think sharply, to think straight, to see what's actually going on. They want us here. And what an awakening mind does is start to do this. And when you do that, you start to connect dots that you can't actually see here. And so we're at this fork in the road where people have to choose. Are they going to go on being controlled sheep and robots of the control system, or are they going to wake up and take the road to freedom? That's the fork in the road, and that's the choice that people are facing now and will face ever more blatantly.
It's what it is. They use the TV to program us from a young age.
Watch people. Because you can fake for a long time, but one day you're going to show yourself to be a phony. And that's what, a lot of people are doing that.
The Western European tradition that has been all but lost in the world. And we're using music because that's the instrument that young people respond to right now. We're doing propaganda directly to awaken the wolf in man, because the wolf is a symbol of Western European power and fury, and that's why we use the werewolf imagery.
I understand you're talking about the evolution of this, that your music is getting more into the political...
Well, our music, well, I wouldn't say political, because we transcend politics. Politics is merely the puppet show of human beings, and we transcend that, but we are interested in the control of human beings for our own purposes. Music of today is absolute swill. It's designed to keep young people passive, restrained, and it's designed to tame them and keep them into sort of domestic sheep. I would separate young people today into two breeds. There's predators, which are the wolves, and there are the sheep, and that's most of them. And we appeal to an elite. We are, frankly, an elitist organization. We seek a few excellent people. We don't want a lot of dross. We don't want a lot of mediocre followers. What we want are people who are capable of action.
Do you see a lot of, do you see some elements of what you're talking about in other music that's...
I think the skinhead movement is a very positive step away from the decadence of the rock and drug culture that has dominated the youth so much. But as Adolf Hitler said, we seek to bring about a youth that has closed its heart to pity. All of the humanist values that Judeo-Christianity has encouraged, we want to wipe them out. It's led to democracy, social humanism, the idea of equality. All of this filth has to be wiped out if the human race is going to continue to take the next step in evolution.
What do you believe that would be like if you were in control, as far as your attitudes towards your own people?
Well, we are in control because basically we are not a political organization, we are an occult organization. We're working behind the scenes to manipulate the way that people think. The war that we are waging is a guerrilla war on the human mind. And we use musical frequencies, the dominant frequency, which I've referred to before, and symbolism and imagery to awaken dormant aspects of the human mind. The war that we are waging is a guerrilla war on the human mind. And we use musical frequencies, the dominant frequency, which I've referred to before, and symbolism and imagery to awaken dormant aspects,
which we call corn. They shipped that into Africa. They shipped a breadfruit, which is starch, in the Caribbeans. They put everybody black on the face of the earth on a high starch diet.
What are some of the ramifications of high starch in your?
Well, starch is, by definition, the food that can change your mood and state of consciousness more than any other food.
Can change your mood and state of consciousness
more than any other food.
You hear that, my brothers and sisters? Your mood and your state of consciousness more than any other food.
That's the objective. You want to destabilize the emotions. We want to diffuse the emotions. So if I put all the black folks on a high starch diet, which from the slave journals caused bone deformities, pelvic deformities, hair loss, teeth loss, all this is caused by a high starch diet because it turns into sugar very quickly. And sugar causes mood swings. You get very irritable. You put a husband and wife and put them both on high starch, sugar and sweets, they're going to get on each other's nerve and eventually have a divorce anyway. So we want to put them on a high starch diet to make them easily manipulated.
Right.
They can't lock into their emotions because it's constantly swinging back and forth. The sugar drops down low, they get irritated. Sugar goes up high, they get hyper.
Right.
And sugar is the main driver of the industry. Sugar is what drives the dentistry because of the cavities that sugar produces.
Right, no work. They won't have any work.
Sugar creates special ed because it makes children hyper.
And they call it attention deficit.
Attention deficit, hyper. All of this is sugar.
Yeah.
Without sugar, special ed, which is a billion-dollar industry, the dentistry, billion-dollar industry, perfume has to smell sweet. $1 billion.